Welcome to the AusComX show. This Wednesday, I am with Sheydin as our host. And I should probably inform everyone, that's going to be how it is from now on. We are going to fortnightly, and Sheydin will be joining us as the host every fortnight. So just thought I'd share that. Tonight, we are talking to Jana Hoffmann, who is the awesome creator of this beauty. The Lonely Giant. So, yes, that's pretty cool. So, enough of my face, although we could look at Sheydin for ages. But enough of my face. Let's go and talk to Jana. And I need to be in the right spot for that.
Good evening, Australia. Welcome to the AusComX comic show. We are here to talk everything about comic creations. Tonight on the show, we have someone who I've been dying to talk to. It is Jana Hoffmann. Thank you so much for being on the show, Jana. I'm super excited to dive into your lovely comic creation, The Lonely Giant.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. I really want to dive in. Can you give the viewers a little bit of context of who you are, what you've done, where you're from?
Yeah. So gosh, how far back do you want to start? So I have apparently always been into drawing. I don't remember this, but I ran into someone who I went to primary school with, and she's like, "Oh yeah, you were always drawing." I was like, I thought I started that in high school, but no, apparently I've always been drawing. But I didn't really get into reading comics until I was in high school. So, I read Calvin and Hobbes in the newspapers, obviously, loved it. But yeah, didn't really get into the comic scene until a bit later. I'd catch the bus into the city and nervously walk into the comic shop and be kind of be like, can I have my how to draw manga books, please? So yeah, I had my little stash. So I was really into so obviously got into checking out the local comic store, but I was really into webcomics. So yeah, because I wasn't, and I'm still not a crazy fan of the monthly floppy format. I am also a really big fantasy novel reader. So I growing up, I found lots of ongoing webcomics that were fantasy related. Not always fantasy, but yeah. So yeah, I did that during high school, loved it. I had a webcomic with a couple of friends in uni. So that went for about 52 strips. It was more of a strip comedy style. So I had a friend, he did the writing, and I did the artwork, and the other guy was just comedic inspiration. And it was all in jokes about being at McGill Uni SA campus, basically. So it wasn't particularly funny. Well, no, actually, I think some of them were quite funny, but mostly funny to us. So that didn't last long after I realized that the uni course I was doing was not really catering to what I was interested in. I was interested at the time in doing web design, and it was I was doing lots of state power and society journalism courses, and I was like, this is not the right uni degree for me. So so after I left there, I was like, I should probably do this adult thing and focus on web design and stuff like that. And I went and was boring and trying to be an adult. And then maybe like, I don't know, 6 years later, I was sort of, I was walking past Nicholas Scott at, I think it was Supernova. And she was doing a commission for a girl, and she was giving her career story of how when she was, I think, 27, she was just like hating her job. She was, I think, an architect, maybe. And she's like, what do I want to do with my life? I want to draw Wonder Woman. And then 4 or 5, I'm paraphrasing obviously, but 4 or 5 years later, she worked her ass off and then got to the States and was drawing Wonder Woman. And I was 28 at the time when I walked past her, and I'm like, maybe it's not too late to follow my dreams. So at the time, I was attending the Adelaide Ladies Comic Book Club with a bunch of lovely Adelaide ladies, including your previous guest, Jess Kate. And so we paired up to do a ongoing webcomic called Heart of Miliera. So that was like just wonderful, like getting really into the scene, and we had such a great time. We did conventions, we did some Kickstarters. I'm a Kickstarter super backer, which is apparently a title you get when you back a lot of Kickstarters. Which so yeah, I was keen to get stuff out there. So yeah, we did Heart of Miliera. We did a bunch of little short stories, and then I really wanted to do get into some writing as well. So yeah, that's when I started working on The Lonely Giant, which was really hard because I'm not a easy writer. It definitely, like, storytelling, like visual storytelling is more my strong suit. So yeah, I worked really hard on it. I did some courses and read lots of books because I'm an over researcher on any topic on any part of my life. So yeah.
Fantastic. I think that's a really awesome character backstory. I'm really glad that you touched on some points. If people did not just pick up on that, obviously Uni SA, Uni of South Australia, which is my uni that I'm currently going to. I'm at the West Campus, so we are talking to yet another South Australian comic creator. I feel like South Australia is just a hidden gem when it comes to comics. So yeah, South Australia represent.
Yeah.
Also,
yeah.
I really love that you mentioned our previous guest, Jess Kate, which was really fantastic to see a writer's perspective on Miliera, which is fantastic because now we have the artist of Miliera. So I think that would be really cool to delve into more during the show in your kind of perspective of how that process went. But we are here to talk about this lovely little gem, speaking of gems, The Lonely Giant. For anyone who unfortunately does not possess a copy, can you give us a little bit of a synopsis of this lovely little comic creation?
Yeah. So like I mentioned before, I'm really into the fantasy genre and fantasy adjacent, so I always wanted to work in fantasy comics and steampunk and stuff like that. And there was this children's story that growing up, I like just loved. It was given to me in a just a whole book of like fairy tales and children's stories. I would grab it and show you, but it's kind of falling apart. So I'm a bit scared to like manhandle it these days. But there's this tiny story in amongst like hundreds of stories called The Lonely Giant. And growing up, it always used to make me cry. Like I was a shy kid. I didn't really make friends easily. And so this particular story was about friendship and making friends. And I just thought it was the sweetest thing. And I always wanted to make a fantasy version of it. So a lot of my imaginings used to be a lot more like initially they were a lot more faithful to the original story. Like the original story is a giant who's the last of his kind is living in like rural England or not rural, in a small town in England, and a human family moved next door, and the kids want to request a song on the radio, and he overhears that, and so he writes a letter to the radio station, and they play the song, and then everyone gets really happy and excited, and then the kids run off, and he's all like, "Oh no, I've scared the kids! Like, oh, this is terrible." But then they run around the corner and they're like, "You did that for us," and they become friends, and it's super cute and super adorable. And so I wanted, being a teenager, I think my first thoughts were like gritty reboot, like, oh, he's sad because his wife died, and I don't know, something really dorky like that. But then as I looked more into writing, I sort of thought about my own experiences making friendships and making friends and putting yourself out there, and how you can really like a person, but they might not be a very good friend fit for you. And that doesn't mean they're a bad person. That doesn't mean they're a good person, but it's just like, you guys don't, you want to make friends with the people that make you feel good and lift you up and stuff like that. And that's not to obviously say there's not bad times, but you want to find the right friend that for you. So that's sort of how I wanted to approach the story. And so the story is the story of Nate. So she's a traveling giant in a new forest, and she wants to just take a break from wandering. And she meets some characters and tries to make friends, and doesn't necessarily go quite as smoothly as she would hope.
Amazing. I think, yeah, you definitely summed it up perfectly. This lives on my shelf, and it is like always presented out like this way. I love this for many reasons, not just the story, but I also absolutely adore your art style, which is also really well represented in Miliera as well, a previous project of yours. I did want to ask, are there any other projects besides those two that we've just spoken about that you've been working on or have worked on or in the pipeline?
So another one that Jess and I worked on, first we did a little offshoot of Hana Miliera called The Many Adventures of Ida Blaker, which was a little prequel story. And unfortunately, I don't have that one at hand. But I do have another one that we did, which was called Great Beasts, which I love. It's, there we go. Camera, mirror, very moody, very moody. So it's really short, sort of mono. Oh God, I'm useless at this. Here we go. But it's very cool, very moody, atmospheric. Love that one. Jess's writing is really great. I forgot to put our names on the cover. I only realized like recently. I was like, wait, there's no names on the cover.
Only adds to the mystery.
Yeah, I mean they're inside. It's in the back, but like anyway, never mind. But yeah, I am working on a new project at the moment. I am still trying to think of a name for it because naming things is hard. But I have done all the script. I'm currently working through the thumbnails. It's another fantasy one, but this one's a bit more of an adventure story. So, so two people go into a forest to capture a creature, and things go not as expected. Is
interesting.
all I will say.
Yes.
So
how long
yeah.
have you been? How long has this been in the pipeline, if you don't mind me asking?
When did I start it? I mean, it was I was hoping to have it done last year.
Classic.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Mostly because I moved house in the middle of last year, and I was like, that won't take long. It took long. there was a lot involved in the move, and I still feel like we're only like, I mean, we're settled in the house, but I'm not settled in my like study particularly well. Like I know where things are, but like I actually have a study now, whereas before I had my desk in the lounge room. So I'm looking forward to someday maybe like organizing things and setting things up for myself. But at the moment, it's great having my own space, by the way. Just not even complaining. I'm not even complaining. But yeah. So.
I totally get it. I used to have my own studio and then like a little study, and then I've come back and like obviously I've got a dining table in the back. I totally understand it. I sympathize. But yeah, no, I think it's an organized space, this studio. You really got to like make it your own. So it's a long process as well. It's a very
and just a lot of experimenting you kind of need to do to work out what works for you. So yeah,
definitely. And they say the environment that you work in is also really important as well. So I think if you take your time with it, I think that's a good thing. Definitely.
Yeah. And now I don't need to walk in front of my partner while he's trying to play Resident Evil. So you know,
it all works out.
Yeah.
Moving along, I really wanted to talk to you a little bit about. You did briefly mention, I think, some of your bigger inspirations, but like growing up reading comics, who did you really look up to?
So I used to love. Michael Turner was one of my first inspirations. And I basically glommed onto him because I was so intimidated by like superhero, like, 80 years of history, because especially coming from a novel reading background, I like to go back to the start. And that's a bit hard with Superman and Batman and all of that. But yeah, so Michael Turner had his new Aspen comics, and at the time, so this is aging me. And they were fantasy. They had there was fairies and stuff, but it was gritty sci-fi as well. And women's torsos were really long for some reason. And so that was a big stylistic influence on me. I really loved that. And Avatar: The Last Airbender. Obviously, that's not a comic, but there are comics. And I just love that series so much, or series. I love Korra as well. Just so gripping and great storytelling and So I just love those series.
And looking at some of your artwork as well, I think that really shines through as well in some of your art choices as well, which is really, really fascinating to see. These are the kind of hard-hitting questions that I absolutely love to get the real meat out of what makes an artist.
The one that really, probably it's obviously, but also maybe not stylistic inspiration for The Lonely Giant was Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me, I think is the title. Yeah.
That's on my to-read list. Is it?
God, it's so good. It's so good. Good. It's one of my favorite comics ever. But also, the stylist, the color palette is really, really simplified. but also just really like strategically implemented in a way. Like, you know, it's this limited color palette, but the colors seem have a meaning, like an emotional usage, like, oh sorry, are used to punctuate emotions and things like that. It's not just a like a shadow light volume kind of atmospheric thing. It's really,
which is why I chose it, and which is why it is at the top of my to read list. Which is also interesting that you highlighted color. I mean, I was going to get into it later, but now you got me going. The colors in this, I mean, if anybody knows me, I love color, and I like it in a really structured way, and I think you've absolutely nailed it. This color combination, which is super cohesive and like really the continuity in it is so well done, and I don't often see it, but when I do, especially in this example, it is done so well. I can rave on all about it, but I absolutely love your comment in this, and it's so interesting that you like raised that example of that comic, because like I said, it was one of the reasons why I have that on my list, and one of the reasons why I have this on my bookshelf. So no, that's fantastic to hear. Awesome. Well, I also wanted to ask, do you have any comic related goals in the near future at all? Anything that you are working on something now? Are there any like real tangible goals that you're working towards?
Well, related to that comic, I really want it to be kickstarted and done before Paper Cuts Festival this year.
Yes.
So exciting.
Yes, because I'm so excited for that to come back again, because it was so good last time, and I just had a great time. And well, Lonely Giant sold really well. So, you know, I'd really...
Oh, that's where I got it from, actually, now that you said it. Yeah, there you
go. So, yeah, I'd really love to have another book for the new Paper Cuts. So, that's the main goal.
If anybody's heading to Paper Cuts, there's just another reason why you should come along.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's so exciting to hear. I really like it when people or artists have got like real tangible goals that they're working towards. I think that's really inspiring, I think, really admirable. I really want to kind of shift gears. I think we've reached that mark where we kind of want to go into a different genre of the show. These are some really fun, rapid fire questions for you. To kick things off, if you could inherit any trait from your character, what would it be and why? And it could be from any book that you've illustrated in.
Well, I mean, Nate can cast spells and make potions and stuff. So, I mean, why wouldn't she could make magical creatures? I would definitely want magic and the ability to make fancy potions. So very definitely cool. That.
Wouldn't we? Okay, love it. All right, firing another one at you. Which one of your characters is most like yourself?
Ooh. I mean, Nate, probably. I mean, yeah, but like definitely. So, Wattle is another character in The Lonely Giant. She talks a lot. I'm shyer than her, but I think I'm also that chatty. And then some of the other characters, I'm just as oblivious as they are. So yeah. But yeah, I'm definitely Nate. I would say is like, you know.
I definitely kind of resonated with her as well. So yeah, I think we've got mutual ground there. That's for sure. Which one of your characters would you most likely become friends with?
Ooh. Yeah, I'm trying to pick between Waddle and Nate, actually, because, like, I mean, Nate really likes dancing. I really like dancing. That's the other thing. I really like dancing. But Waddle seems a lot of fun. So I'd be friends with both of them. We'd be a girl gang. So, yeah.
I love it. I think that'd be a really cool dynamic as well. Definitely. Yeah. Definitely. For sure. I want to kind of shift into gears in like more of the process kind of. So which character did you enjoy designing or creating the most, and why?
I really enjoyed Nato. Like trying to come up with a giant, but also so she needed to take up space. But I also wanted to be able to comfortably draw her with other characters. So it was kind of like, how do I make this character not look like, so she's humanoid, but she's not too humanoid. She looks unique, and also to be big, but still able to stay in the frame. Not set too much of a challenge for myself for panel layouts and stuff like that. And on the flip side, one of the characters I struggled with the most was the rock spirit. They I really wanted them to be like gender neutral and also like a rock spirit. And so balancing that masculine, feminine, like stony look, I just like, it worked so much better in my head. I really struggled with it. So I'm okay with where I ended up, but I really struggled with that one. So
yeah, absolutely. And that's so funny because that was literally my next follow-up question. What was the biggest challenge you're drawing this particular a character? What was the hardest character for you to create? But I really enjoyed that answer. I think it was really good that you touched on creating a character that was gender neutral. I think that's a really good representation, and maybe needed a little bit more sometimes in comics. So I think that's really cool. I think you're taking one for the team. Good on you, Jana.
I think that representation really is important. Like, so it was one of the reasons why. So Waddle has a disability, like, but I still wanted her to be like fully participating in life and not. So, like, she has a disability, but she's not disabled, if that makes any sense. Like, she's still able to enjoy all the things that she wants to. Like, she can dance in her own way. I really do feel like representation is important. I remember growing up reading, I mean, it's a bit different, but Tamora Pierce's The Lioness Quartet was like a huge influence on me, like from a storytelling perspective, but also just like Alana was this, fierce woman character who was just like kind of the opposite of me, who like just really took what she wanted and I never saw women in fantasy up until that point, or very much. Like, most of the big epic fantasy stories you see at the time in the 90s was male dominated, or like led, I guess. And I love those stories, but it was so exciting to see a female character and someone who was taking on a male role, and all of the challenges involved with that. Like, she pretends for much of the series to be a man. So
absolutely.
Great.
No, I think I could not have said that better. Honestly, I think, like I said, it's so important to see representation anywhere, really. And I think it's getting better and better nowadays, which is fantastic. And it's so cool to see in indie comics, because you're obviously able to see the creator at conventions, if it's a local convention or a market or anything like that. So I think that just adds fuel to the fire, if anything. And again, which is another reason why I absolutely love this. This book is so heartwarming, and I think it's got a lot of layers, and it's definitely got a lot of love from me, that's for sure. And I think, it was a really fantastic answer, so thanks for that, Jana. Are there any of the characters inspired by real life people that you surround yourself with?
I think they're more combinations of characters and a lot of combining other people's traits with myself, if that makes any sense.
Okay, yeah.
Like so what'll like I'm chatty. If you get me going, I don't shut up. But I won't talk to strangers very much. Like, you know what I mean? I won't just introduce myself and then tell, that sort of thing. I find that intimidating. And then, there was a lot of experiences that happened to me, like being at a party and like not knowing what to do, and people are talking over you and around you, and like kind of giving you a little lip service, like that sort of experience has happened to me in the past, and it's just like a crappy feeling. So yeah, I wouldn't say, yeah, it's more traits from different people and then jamming them into me.
That's fantastic as well. And I think just adds another dimension. I am definitely a huge advocate if you have experienced something or if there is a trait that you really want to put forward into a character. I think it's always a really good idea because you can always draw upon that experience and it can be more authentic. So yeah, I really admire that. I think that's really brave of you to do. But yeah, no, that's fantastic. Thank you. You have reached the end of the rapid fire questions. You can now. You've done well.
Sorry for my rapid answer.
I also
going
want
on
to
my tomorrow PS tangent. Never mind.
I also want to take the opportunity for all our viewers tonight. If you do have any burning questions, please send them through. We love to always hear what you guys think, or if you've got any questions about Jana's work, please send them through. So we want to kind of talk a little bit more of like how you did it. How did Jana do this? Can you walk us through like how you created The Lonely Giant? Like, what was your process? Maybe if there were a couple of steps that you took, what were they?
Yeah. So I I know a lot of artists will like go straight to thumbnails, but for me, I've always like sometimes I get that like kind of blank page, don't know what I'm doing kind of thing. I like to have a kind of a purpose for what I'm trying to do. So for me, scripting was the way to go. So I first started out doing for The Lonely Giant, I did a course. It was through CGMA called, I think it was Visual Storytelling for Artists, or like Storytelling Writing for Artists, something like that. So that sort of got me started with the process. But because it was like a course, there was sort of they wanted it to be a bit. The work was meant to like kind of started to be a bit bigger than what I was aiming for. Like I was aiming to do 12 page. It's 27, just so you know. It's 12. I was aiming for 12 pages. So I worked through that course and then worked through the script and I have gave it to some friends for feedback. And once I was sort of mostly happy, then I fired up Clip Studio Paint and started doing the thumbnail process. So because especially with dialogue, like, and I found this with Hannah Miliera, I very quickly found that I needed to put the dialogue in first, because I would be like, yeah, that's heaps of space for that dialogue. It was not heaps of space. So I would put the thumbnails in first. The lettering in, like not fixed, but put it down, make the space there so that there's enough enough room for it, and also to sort of take it into account when doing the panel composition, because I think that can have the lettering can have a real effect on the weight and the feeling of the panel. So yeah, I built it up I did through all the thumbnails. Oh, before that I did character designs, so I knew what I was drawing. In saying that, this time around with the new project, I've only done a small amount of character designs because I just really wanted to get into the thumbnails and feel like get a really big sense of the characters before I go back to doing the designs, before I then start the pencils. I'm going to call them pencils. I'm not penciling. I'm drawing it in Clip Studio again, but that's how I did it. For the Lonely Giant, I then printed out the pencils, and on sort of A3 paper, I used a printer at my office, borrowed the printer, and then brought them home to ink traditionally. So,
cool.
I started. So my partner and I, we started watching, what's it called? Manben, which is a documentary series by Urasawa, where he interviews all these different mangaka in Japan, and he sets up a camera in their workspace for a couple of days, and then they watch the footage and they talk about their process, and it was just a huge inspiration. So just loved it, and I've always loved traditional inking. It's really stressful. I find it really stressful, but I also find it very freeing. The inks are down. You got to go. you got to move on. So I did scan things back in and then fix some stuff if I needed to not Photoshop. I go to say Photoshop even though I haven't used Photoshop for art for 5 years. I don't know, 4 years. So yeah, cleaned up the inks and then colored, flattered. So flattered, then colored, and then there's a little texture in the coloring, so applied that as well. It's pretty subtle, but I just kind of like it. Yeah. So and then I think I worked on the cover. So.
Yeah, nice. So once it was, we've got a question. I love it. 2 for 1. What's your favorite and least favorite part of drawing a page?
My favorite is the thumbnails, because they for mine at least, it's the hardest part, but it's the most fun because it's you see all the potential. There's there's a lot of energy. There's I put in expressions that I want to convey, or but they're super simplified and they kind of look really goofy. So they're kind of goofy looking. They're really expressive. There's just so much potential, and there's no failure. There's no failure. So yeah, I just what's my least favorite. I don't know. I think it's my least favorite would be if I'm stuck penciling when I can't get something to look right, when I can't get what I was imagining from the thumbnails. So, but I as I'm getting better, I feel like I'm getting that's happening less.
And I think that's a good sign. You're becoming more confident. Which I think is
I have the tools to work it out. So even if I do get stuck, I'm I don't feel it doesn't feel like I'm a failure. It just feels like I just haven't drawn this thing before and I need to work out how to draw it.
Absolutely,
Whereas before it'd be like, oh, this is the limit of my skill and I cannot do any more. Like,
absolutely. I think that's a really, really good, valuable piece of advice. I think that's amazing. Thanks for the question, Chris. If anybody else has any more burning questions, please send them through. Where were we? So once your comic is printed, do you then go forward to conventions? Where do you go from there?
Yeah, so well, to get it printed, I'll probably always start with a Kickstarter, or maybe a backer kit campaign, maybe, or we'll see how things go in the future. But at the moment, all my campaigns so far have been on Kickstarter, and they're fantastic. They're just a great way to get a comic out there. Make sure and not to mention you make sure you don't go out of pocket. You can gauge demand for what you're making. So getting that out there is a really validating process. And then I'll make sure that when I do the Kickstarter campaign that I have plenty of copies left over for selling at conventions, and also at some of the local stores here in Adelaide. So mostly Greenlight Comics, which they're great. Also, my partner's one of the owners, so. But,
oh my God!
Full disclosure. But I liked the store before we dated, so yeah.
Is that why you were in the comic store?
Maybe.
Oh, classic. So it's a comic crazy house over there, is it?
It is a bit, yeah. So
there you
that's
go.
gold.
Yeah.
So you get you gauge your demand for your comics, and you then go forward to conventions and then start distributing them to different comic stores around Adelaide. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Nice.
And I'm looking at doing having an online store as well, but at the moment I don't have a lot of stock. Well, I mean, I have a lot of Lonely Giant, obviously, but I think I've only got maybe 10 copies of Great Beasts, and I don't know. I think Hanamuliera Prelude is sold out, or my copies are sold out. So really, I was hoping to have another book before I try and push a online store. So basically, that's in the future at some point, because I don't have enough to juggle.
That's it. So, well, I think that's a super insightful process. Again, a really valuable question, I think, for like-minded people who may be viewing tonight. I really like to hear different people's process of how they go about creating a little comic creation. But yeah, I really, really like how thoughtful your steps are. I think that's really, really admirable, definitely. I mean, obviously, Chris came in with a fantastic question because it was my question that was coming up. So out of the whole process, what is your favorite and least favorite thing? Is it the thumbnails, like out of the entire process? Or is that just left for your favorite thing about doing a page? What's your favorite thing in the whole process?
Inking is pretty good too, like traditional inking. Like so I, after watching Man Ben, I bought some dip pens as well, and just like there's just something really magical about the like scratch of the dip pen across the paper. It's just like it's really good. So yeah, thumbnails are like, it's funny. I just realized that both of my favorite things are the most stressful parts. Because inking traditional is also quite stressful, because obviously if you screw up, then it's there. You can't do much about it. I mean, you can do a little bit about it, but you've got to commit to something. You can't just be like, oh no, undo. Yeah. Because when I ink digitally, I would tend to hit like zoom right in, and then I'd be like getting in on all these details and then zoom out, and I'm like, oh, nobody can see any of those details. Why did I spend all that time? I did that on Talgard actually. I was part of the Talgard anthology. Sorry, I completely forgot to mention that as well. Yeah. So Talgard Tome 2 by Gestalt, published by Gestalt this year, I think it was, or recent in the last 6 months, I think it was. So that was really cool to be part of this big comic project with a bunch of other creators that I really admire. So and the script was, I'm just in awe of so like I said, this was 27 pages instead of 12. Gary proudly somehow managed to just pump out these 4-page scripts. I'm like, what? So yeah, but I actually did that particular comic before The Lonely Giant. Yeah, it was before The Lonely Giant. It was ages ago, like 2020, 2019. So I've inked digitally on that one, and like got in on these details, and then I zoomed out, and I'm just like, oh my god, I spent ages on that, and nobody can see that detail. So like, it doesn't look bad. It was just like I spent way too long on that. So you can't do that with traditional inking. You're at what you see. You can't get it you can't zoom in inappropriately, basically.
Definitely. Another question. Dave Dye wants to know if you're going to the Adelaide Comic and Toy Fair. Are you, Jana? Are you going to be there?
So if it's not too late for me to get a table, but I only realized that it was coming up this week, and I was like, oh no, maybe. I think because I know that it's the tables sell out pretty well. I think pretty quickly. So I'll be honest. I'm assuming at this point that I've missed out on a table. But I will.
That's okay, because it is a biannual event. There's another one in October.
So I'll note that down, because I knew that it happened semi-frequently, but I didn't know the dates. So October. I am considering going to PCAF.
Oh,
so really?
Yes, really.
So, because I heard it was really good last time, and I mean, I just love a good comic festival. Really, they're just a good vibe,
Yeah.
And would love to take The Lonely Giant there in person. I am Owen from Amplified Press. He's my distributor. We came up with a deal because he publishes a lot of people's work, but I was very comfortable doing The Lonely Giant on Kickstarter, so I didn't necessarily need his assistance with that, but he offered to take The Lonely Giant to conventions that I wasn't going to, because he does a lot of convention attendance. Really cool. So yeah, he took The Lonely Giant to PCAF, and that was the year they did the, what do you call it? Not the Ledgers, the Comic Arts Awards now. And I was nominated, but I did not win. I made the shortlist. So yeah, Lonely Giant made the shortlist. So yeah, I was really chuffed. And if I'd known that the awards were at PCAF, I would have absolutely was I moving? I had something that made making it a bit stressful, but I probably could have made it if I'd known that the awards were going to be happening. But then I lost. I didn't lose. Obviously, I didn't lose. I got nominated. I didn't win any awards, so probably fine that I didn't make it. But I still kind of regret it.
Yeah.
So,
What an absolute credit to be shortlisted. That's phenomenal. Good on you. Yeah,
I'm
congratulations.
totally going to make stickers and put it on the book. I just haven't got to it yet.
Yeah, good idea.
So,
You're an ideas
yeah.
man, Jana. You're an ideas man.
Yeah.
No, that's fantastic. That's so awesome. And I'm so glad that question did come up because again, you guys are taking all my questions. I'm gonna have to start thinking of more. No, that's fantastic to know that you are you got so many ideas and so many projects in the pipeline, and you're actively moving towards a goal, and thinking about attending some wonderful conventions here in Australia surrounding comics, which is fantastic. We're switching gears, Jana. We're into the very final stage of the show. These are some more well-rounded questions, probably very beneficial to our viewers tonight. To start things off, what are some really good tips or maybe some lessons you've learnt along the way that you can share with others?
Ooh. Lessons. I mean, it should be obvious, but comics take time. They take so much time. So just be patient and be patient with yourself and just enjoy the time that it takes, really. Like it should be fun. Like none of us should. I doubt anybody's here trying to make comics for any other reason because it's not exactly yeah. So just enjoy it. Clip Studio Paint 2 is just come out, so that's my hot tip. I am very excited for Clip Studio Paint 2. I downloaded it this morning and then I had to go to work and I was like, I really want to play with it. So because I do the lettering in Clip Studio, I'm very much looking forward to the new ligatures and text tools. I don't know much about them, but I'm just anything would be better than what the text tools currently are. So they're pretty bad in Clip Studio. If you're not using Clip Studio, you should definitely use Clip Studio for comics. It will be hard to make the switch from Photoshop, but it is 100% worth it. The perspective rulers are fantastic. The grid, the frame tools, the panel tools are fantastic. The brushes are fantastic. I haven't done a lot of using the 3D stuff, but I know that 3D tools are really useful. You can get 3D characters that you can then get into the right pose that you want instead of trying to find the magical piece of photo reference that doesn't exist of the exact pose that you need. Clip Studio, and it's super affordable. And although they've just moved to a new model, which is very confusing, but very flexible. They've got a once-off perpetual license for version 2, or you can pay the old subscription. But it's $40 a year. It's US dollars, but converted, it's $40 for a year instead of what was it, $70 a month for $30 a month for the Photoshop subscription. It's absurd. So it's super affordable. And I'm talking about there's 2 different versions as well. There's the professional EX version, which has the story, and I recommend that one too because it also has page management. So you've got you have you set up, it's 27 pages, and then it's you've got you can see the different spreads. You can move the pages about. You can copy. There's a text tool, so you can copy and paste. I take all the script, put it into the different panels, and then apply it. So it's 100% worth it. You should definitely be using Clip Studio if you're making comics. So that's
You've absolutely sold it for me. Oh my god! You sent me a
I didn't draw and I want to do it.
That's so fantastic, and that's actually some questions that I've been wanting to know about Clip Studio Paint because I hear it so often, and I'm like, maybe I should suss this out. This sounds like a pretty good deal. And I think that's really cool. I think that's definitely a really valuable information that maybe some people who are starting out definitely need to know. Yeah, so if you got any suggestions for software, yeah, definitely. I think that's really valuable. So we've talked a little bit about The Lonely Giant, your projects, a little bit about yourself, some of your biggest achievements being shortlisted, as well as going to some conventions. You've done it all, Jana. You've absolutely done it all. It's a real credit to you, I think. I really want to kind of know exactly what do you love so much about the Australian comic industry?
Oh, it's the passion. Like everyone is in it for the love. Like everyone just is so passionate about the storytelling, the community itself. Everyone is helpful and sharing. It's just so many warm and fuzzies, you know. Like the fact that you guys are doing this is fantastic. Like these interviews and stuff. It's like this is so much work. I can only imagine. And you know, like the PCAF festival and the paper cuts by Owen and Gina, like everyone puts in so much work, and it like every year it feels like it's getting better and better, and which is great because it's great. It's so absolutely. Everyone is just so great.
It definitely goes back onto your top tip for emerging creators is that do it out of love, and I think that is definitely reflected everywhere in that community. Definitely one of my top dot points of why I love the community here in Australia. I do want to know, what do you want to see more of in the community, do you reckon?
More people. So it's like, and it is growing. It is totally growing. Don't get me wrong. And I think that is because of all the work that like you guys and Owen and Gina and all the guys, you know, just all the guys everywhere are doing. It is growing. But obviously I just want more people to just know how amazing comics are. So that's definitely happening, just not fast enough. And I guess like on a more specific note, I would love to see more Australian creators try Kickstarter, because like you do need to bring people to the Kickstarter campaign. It's not as simple as like put it up on Kickstarter and you'll just get money thrown at you. Like you do need to put in a bit of work promoting it and building an audience. And I say building an audience, but I don't necessarily mean like a social media audience. Like email list is way better and way more important than that. You know, just a way to reach people basically and say, hey, look at this Kickstarter I've got. You know, it's a great way to, you know, get your product funded before you have to print it, and for people to show their support to you, like instead of just being like, you know, this is a retail transaction. It's like, no, I love this project. I want to give you, you know, I have an office job and, you know, hate it. So I'm going to throw my money at you because I love this project. Like, you know, you can really do really great things with the Kickstarter platform. So I guess that's something else I would like to see more of in the Australian community, just because I think it's really powerful. It's a really powerful tool. So, and again, it doesn't need to be Kickstarter. It could be the new BackerKit platform is I think probably the best competitor for Kickstarter, because they're a really solid existing platform. I know there are a bunch of other ones out there that have tried to take off, but I think they're still a little bit in their infancy. So, but yeah, Kickstarter, BackerKit, or Indiegogo. How can I forget Indiegogo? But yeah, all of those platforms, crowdfunding is super powerful if you're up for the challenge. It's a lot of work. Don't get me wrong, it's a lot of work, but I found it really rewarding. So yeah,
definitely. No, the best things are always, you know, out of hard work and out of love. No, that's fantastic. I think you've been an absolute wealth of knowledge. I really could have done with this information when I was first starting out in 2018. You've definitely sold Clip Studio Paint for me, and now you've absolutely sold Kickstarter. I've never done a Kickstarter. You know what, Jana? I'm going to do it just for you.
All right, do it. And I'll recommend while I'm here recommending things, if you're going to do Kickstarter, then I recommend the Comics Launch podcast, which is a podcast specifically for comic Kickstarters. Yeah, so, and it's comics with an X as well, but I think there is an IX.
There is no I in comic.
Yeah, not for this one. Not for this one.
Not in this one. Not in this one.
Not in this one. This guy's American. He doesn't know what he's doing. But he knows what he's doing when it comes to comic Kickstarters. So there you go.
Nice.
So yeah, the Comics Launch podcast is just a huge wealth of. I think there's like 500 episodes. So if you have a very specific question, I'm pretty sure he's covered it. He's been doing it for years, so it's really good.
Wow. So. Thanks for that.
Yeah, an absolute wealth of knowledge. Tell all the viewers, we have reached the end of my long list of questions. Where can we find your work? Where can we find you? Give us a spiel.
Well, so I have a website, janahoffmann.com. It's Hoffman with two N's. But if you Google my name, I'll come up because there's not a lot of English speaking Jana Hoffmanns around. So I think I should come up. So I'm also on Instagram. I think my handle is Jana because Jana Hoffmann was taken, I think. Oh, I don't know. Anyway, Jana. But going back to my website, you should sign up for my mailing list, like I mentioned, and then you'll find out when my new project's launching. And you'll get little sneak peeks of the project as well. I actually just shared a couple of screenshots of my thumbnails because they were goofy looking, and I thought I wanted to share them.
They were a lot of fun. I got that today. Yeah.
Yay! So
fantastic. Where can we find, say, a copy of The Lonely Giant? Is there anywhere we can head to?
Yeah, so Greenlight Comics, definitely. If it's not in stock at the time, then you can order it. I don't think anyone's actually ordered it, but Ross knows where to find me. So yes, you could definitely, or I restock it pretty regularly, but sometimes it sells out, which is nice. So yeah, Greenlight Comics, or I do have a buy link on my website as well. So if you go to my website, you can, it's a square thing. Yeah, it's a square because I got the square card reader, so I use that to make a buy button. So not a full proper shop, but it's shop enough to buy a copy. So yeah, I think that's everywhere. Oh, and you can also read it online for free. It's on my website for free. But if you want the PDF or the book version, then yes, you can buy it through your favorite option. And yeah, so it's on my website as well as Webtoon and Tapas. So
there you go.
Yeah, I actually formatted it for those platforms too. So yeah.
Wow! Oh my god, Jana, you're the gift that keeps on giving. Oh my god, you have been an absolute pleasure to talk to. Yeah, I definitely learned so much about one of my favorite comics that sit on my shelf. Thank you again for being here. We have come to the end of my part of this. Yeah, definitely. We've definitely come to the end of my part. Shay, is there anything else you'd like to tack on the end?
I would like to say, I would like to say like the video. That'd be awesome. That helps us out a lot. And subscribe to the channel. That also helps us out a lot. That gets us out to more people. That would be awesome. Thank you very much. And don't forget to visit the comic shop.
Definitely.
And I just wanted to apologize to the people in the comments. Something happened to StreamYard, and I suddenly got half an hour's worth of comments at the end. I don't know if it did it to you, but it did it to me.
It did happen to me as well. So yeah, sorry
I just
about
suddenly
that.
got a burst of comments. So if I missed anyone,
Yes.
I'm sorry. That's why. I just got like a half an hour's worth of comments in one hit.
Ooh.
Yeah. Facebook
Technical.
user. Yeah.
Thank
it
you.
was.
Hello.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Yeah, definitely. Well, like I said, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, Jana. Thank you so much for talking to us about your wonderful, wonderful comic creation. To all the viewers, thank you so much for tuning in and sending in your comments. Be sure to grab a copy of this absolutely giant gem. Otherwise, you guys can catch some of our shows in later in the week. We've got Drink and Draw on Fridays. It's always a fan favorite, as well as our Sunday Spotlight as well. And earlier in the week, obviously, we have our Tuesday Chinwag. Is that correct, Shane?
Yes, Tuesday Chinwag. Chinwag and Sunday are both on a bit of a holiday at the moment.
Okay. Right. Gotcha.
So yeah, so that's why you won't see them this week or next week. But normally they're there. So yeah, you're right.
Stay tuned. But otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in, guys. That's all on my end. I look forward to seeing you guys again in a fortnight, if there's nothing else.
No, I'm gonna cheat or be naughty or whatever. Be cheeky. Cheeky's word I'm looking for. And I'm gonna do a bit of a Sidrus promo for our outro. So thank you everyone for watching. Thank you so much, Jana, for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure. I kept watching you instead of doing what I was meant to be doing. So I kept getting too enthralled.
Too much wiggling.
So yeah, thank you everyone who watched as well. Thank you, Sheydin, amazing host. So everyone, have a great night. See you in a fortnight. And till then, have a great time.
Thanks, guys.